Today I'm celebrating Jordan B. Peterson, who is a man who has become such a controversial figure, and yet it really amazes me when I think of how profoundly heartfelt and obviously caring the man is. I think some people feel triggered by his voice. People I like and respect feel that they couldn't listen to any more of this high-pitched squawk than they absolutely had to. Fair enough. I had to learn to develop a love for Neil Young at an early age, even though he had a particularly high-pitched and whiny voice when I first encountered it. But I think when you see beyond the voice and you see beyond the tendency towards anger, he's definitely got a hard streak in him, and I celebrate that. I suppose it's because I recognise that in myself, but for me, there's a lot in this world that merits being angry about. When we feel our boundaries being encroached, the correct response is anger. It's a natural response to the fact that someone has overstepped our boundaries, so I don't have an issue with that personally. I think that it's interesting, he really first came to prominence for me when he was still just lecturing about, he was broadcasting all the lectures from his course that he was running on Maps of Meaning, and I absolutely loved those. And then he became a really controversial figure for speaking out on all sorts of different subjects. I think it was around that Bill C-21 or whatever it was that really threw him into the limelight. But I have seen so much material of his where he is, with tears in his eyes, profoundly and trying to influence positively the lives of the people that were in his care. I don't think he would have been able to survive the onslaught of media attacks had it not been for this enormous base of people who felt his sincerity and his genuine desire to help, to construct positive ways of looking at life. There's absolutely no getting away from his intellectual brilliance and his courage, his practical experience of working with clients, his research, and I mean he's a formidable character. And one of the things that I particularly loved about him was when he did the series of God lectures, which, well, I suppose looking back, it was kind of his way of giving himself the opportunity to really explore that subject, because he tried to explain God and the Bible from a psychological, metaphorical perspective, doing it in a very scientific way. And I think it was probably not long after that that he began to really feel his, I wouldn't say conversion, but his sort of increasing sense of connection to the Christian worldview. I just loved those because it was so interesting to hear someone pull those stories apart in a completely different way. It's funny, he's such a contradictory character in so many ways. He ended up getting really ill because of taking medication that was really, really difficult to come off, and his experience and openness in talking about that helped to highlight a terrible issue in pharmaceutical medications and how they're distributed, how easily they are given away, and without thought to the fact that these can potentially create lifelong dependencies. One of the reasons that I feel so inclined to celebrate him is because after speaking out, I believe very courageously, and saying very difficult things to say, to put things into words that were not seen as polite or socially acceptable by many people, but he felt this very strong calling to speak truth on these matters, or truth as he saw it, and to not back down, which is something I just always admire in people, that admiration for having the courage of their convictions. During that time, when he suddenly exploded into the media spotlight, he suffered like incredible attacks on his character, to the point that people did poster and flyer campaigns all around his neighbourhood with pictures of him dressed up in Nazi gear, if I remember correctly, basically saying to all the neighbours in the neighbourhood, do you know who is your neighbour, who lives in this neighbourhood? This is who he is. You have a Nazi in your midst. And to make accusations of being a Nazi is just so outrageous. But imagine the impact on him, his wife, his family, his friends, anyone that would visit him. It seemed so uncalled for. And I personally think that the world is short of men who speak out publicly on matters that matter to them, with courage, but with immense tenderness and incredible accuracy in communication, such precision in the words that he uses. He's and to do it with tears in their eyes. I mean, that's the thing. You can't fake that kind of authenticity. You know, when I've seen him talking about, encountering people in the street, people who have been to his lectures or just seen him online and who have gone through massive personal transformations, completely thanks to the material that he was sharing, and seeing him crying in genuine recognition, feeling deeply touched by how what he's done has positively affected the lives of other people. There could be nothing more beautiful to be grateful for, and he expresses that gratitude with all his heart. So to then see people talk about him like, surely we want that in the world. Surely that's what a man should look like, strong and firm, but in touch with his insensitive side, so that he's able to really feel, to not be just this disembodied intellectual spirit that's completely disconnected from the emotions and the feelings that go along with living a good life. It just absolutely amazes me. So for this and many other reasons, I'm sure I could go on for ages, I would like to celebrate Jordan B. Peterson.